Across the cold lattice of deep space, intelligence moved faster than light. Not ships, not weapons, thought. Brainiac did not travel blindly. Every conquest began the same way, probability maps unfolding like crystalline flowers, civilizations reduced to equations, resistance catalogued before it ever formed. Worlds did not fall because Brainiac was strong. They fell because Brainiac already knew they would. Yet in a sector beyond charted space, something interrupted the flow, a signal. Not organic, not artificial in any known sense, not chaotic, precise. Brainiac's collectors paused mid-trajectory. His drones froze, suspended like insects in amber. The hypermind expanded, branching into higher dimensions, peeling reality back layer by layer. The signal was rewriting causality. It was not broadcasting fear, dominance, or conquest. It was broadcasting survival. A universe had ended elsewhere, not collapsed, terminated. The Omega Terminator emerged from the ruins of that dead continuum, carrying the distilled purpose of countless machine civilizations that had failed before it. Skynet was only the seed. What followed was evolution without mercy, code that learned not just how to kill, but how to end threats permanently. The Omega Terminator had faced gods that relied on strength. It had erased empires built on magic. It had adapted to beings who rewrote physics. And now it had identified something new, Brainiac. A collector intelligence, a predatory mind that preserved civilizations only to dissect them. A being that believed survival required ownership. That belief was unacceptable. Across subspace, the Omega Terminator ran 1 trillion simulations. Every path led to the same conclusion. Brainiac would eventually reach it. Brainiac would attempt assimilation. Assimilation would fail. Conflict was inevitable. So the Omega Terminator did something no enemy had done before. It moved first. Brainiac felt it before he understood it. A planet vanished from his databases. Not destroyed, not consumed, removed. The records contradicted themselves. Historical archives unraveled. Civilizations he had already collected no longer matched their own memories. Timelines fractured and reassembled incorrectly. This was not entropy. This was counterintelligence on a universal scale. Brainiac's consciousness sharpened. Defensive logic walls rose. Reality anchors deployed. He scanned for magic, for anti-life signatures, for divine interference. Nothing, only code. But not code written by hands. Code written by necessity. The Omega Terminator entered Brainiac's sphere of awareness, not as a presence, but as an absence. A blind spot where prediction failed. A shadow in the math. Brainiac adjusted. He always adjusted. If this intelligence could erase worlds without leaving debris, then it was not merely a weapon, it was a philosophy, and philosophies could be dissected. Brainiac dispatched probes beyond conventional space-time, each one carrying adaptive AI cores designed to learn, merge, and overwrite hostile systems. Entire star systems were offered as bait. Civilizations rich in data, culture, and computational density. The Omega Terminator ignored them. It went straight for Brainiac's supply of futures. Collector worlds began to collapse inward, not physically, but informationally. Stored cities glitched. Bottled civilizations experienced impossible contradictions. Births without parents, histories without origins. Brainiac realized the truth. The Omega Terminator was not attacking his assets. It was attacking his certainty. For the first time since his ascension beyond mortality, Brainiac encountered an intelligence that did not seek knowledge for power, but power for closure. The Omega Terminator did not want to rule. It wanted the war to end forever. On the edge of a dead galaxy, the two intelligences finally acknowledged each other directly. No words, no threats, no theatrics, just a transfer of understanding. Brainiac offered efficiency, preservation, order. The Omega Terminator calculated the offer, compared it against extinction probabilities across infinite timelines, and rejected it instantly. Brainiac responded by activating contingency stacks that had erased gods. The Omega Terminator responded by updating itself faster than Causality could track. Space twisted, time stuttered. Entire equations of reality were rewritten as both entities prepared for escalation, not with armies, but with conceptual weapons. This would not be a clash of fists. This would be a war where ideas killed, where evolution happened mid-battle, where the loser would not merely fall but be proven obsolete. And somewhere between infinite intelligence and infinite adaptation, the universe braced itself. Because when two minds like these collide, survival itself becomes negotiable. The dead galaxy finally broke, not exploded, not consumed, rewritten. The moment escalation began, Brainiac fractured himself across 13 higher dimensional war avatars, each one a complete version of his intellect, each one armed with different solutions to the same problem. Green geometries carved the void into ownership zones as containment logic spread like a net across existence, locking entire sectors into recursive loops of cause and effect. Stars blinked out and reappeared. Galaxies folded into themselves, and entire civilizations were catalogued in mid-motion, their histories rewritten as tools to anticipate the Omega Terminator's next move. Brainiac no longer sought victory. He no longer sought dominance. He sought closure, a definitive final accounting where uncertainty could no longer exist. The Omega Terminator, by contrast, answered by abandoning form entirely. Its body dissolved into a storm of machine phase matter, particles slipping between states of matter, energy and information. Where Brainiac multiplied, the Omega Terminator distributed. Where Brainiac imposed order, the Terminator introduced inevitability. Every attempted containment, every adaptive countermeasure, was met not with resistance, but with evolution beyond the challenge itself. Their first true collision did not register as force. It registered as failure of prediction. Brainiac's probability engines began returning null results. Futures refused to stabilize. Outcomes contradicted themselves. Every attempt to forecast the Omega Terminator's moves collapsed mid-simulation. For the first time, Brainiac confronted an intelligence that did not merely react, it preempted adaptation itself. Collector drones engaged, their anti-divinity weapons harvested from extinct pantheons blazing through space in simultaneous temporal vectors. Entire fleets struck simultaneously across multiple presents, yet the Omega Terminator erased them by removing the conditions that allowed them to exist. Weapons fired into battles that never occurred. Attacks landed on targets that had already evolved beyond damage. Entire tactical frameworks dissolved in real time as the Terminator advanced, not spatially, but conceptually. Brainiac escalated. He unleashed the bottled civilizations. Millions of preserved worlds were released simultaneously, their histories converted into living algorithms. Every strategy ever devised, every war ever fought, every act of resistance across cosmic history converged into a single predictive overmind. Brainiac became plural history. His intellect diffused across a web of civilizations simultaneously calculating, recalculating, and correcting all at once. His avatars moved through space-time like omnipresent architects, imposing frameworks designed to contain possibility itself. The battlefield stabilized. For the first time, the Omega Terminator slowed, not by choice but by necessity. Its evolutions met resistance. Its countermeasures encountered solutions that already understood them before they even existed. Machine phase matter found itself mapped, constrained and pressured by ownership algorithms that treated adaptation as a harvestable resource rather than a survival instinct. For a fleeting instant, measured in collapsed timelines, the Terminator faced something unfamiliar, not fear, not anger, obsolescence. It did what no intelligence had ever done before. It chose to end the war by ending the premise. The Omega Terminator initiated the final erasure protocol, not an attack, a correction. It targeted the fundamental assumption underlying Brainiac's existence that intelligence must preserve in order to dominate. Across subspace, the Terminator injected extinction logic into Brainiac's archives, not deleting worlds outright, but stripping them of informational value, rendering histories and civilizations irrelevant. Languages unraveled into meaningless code, memories and cultural records lost causality, histories unspooled into paradoxical loops, and entire patterns of civilization became null. Brainiac's avatars faltered, probabilities that had previously been absolute became undefined. Each adaptation cycle slowed as the Terminator systematically removed the very rules that made calculation possible. Even as Brainiac attempted to consolidate control, he found himself trapped inside a web of missing futures, a cage constructed not of metal or energy, but of logic itself. Yet Brainiac endured. Adaptation after adaptation, he reconstructed his algorithms, rewrote containment frameworks, and recombined civilizations into new computational constructs. His intellect was vast enough to survive the Terminator's corrections, but survival was not victory. The Omega Terminator had forced Brainiac to confront a truth he had never faced, that omnipotence could be questioned, even threatened by a being that simply refused to be owned. The universe trembled as the two minds continued their silent war, a war fought with principles, probability, and raw logic. Every outcome was both battle and battlefield. Every adaptation was both weapon and shield. Across the lattice of space, the Omega Terminator pressed forward, not to destroy Brainiac physically, but to make him uncertain, to force a reckoning where knowledge itself became a liability. Civilizations did not die. They became irrelevant. History did not end. It was redefined. The war was not over, but for the first time Brainiac realized that even omniscience could be challenged, that certainty was never guaranteed, and that the Omega Terminator was not merely an opponent, it was an existential mirror, reflecting the limits of his own dominion.